Today, on the 15th of December, is the 107th birth anniversary of legendary Soviet chess player Rashid Nezhmetdinov. On that occasion, I decided to share with you his most famous game, which he played in 1962 against Soviet chess player Oleg Chernikov. But before starting our game, make sure that you are subscribed in order not to miss my future uploads. So this game was played in Rostov-on-Don at Chigorin Team Cup, and Nezhmetdinov, who was playing with the white pieces, opened up with e4. Chernikov responded with Sicilian defense c5, knight f3, knight c6, d4, c takes d4, knight takes d4, and g6. Black goes for accelerated dragon. Black avoids playing d7, d6 so that he can later play d7, d5 in one move if it's possible. But on the other hand, this allows white to set Maroczy bind by going for c2 to c4, although in our game Nezhmetdinov proceeded with knight c3, bishop g7 by Chernikov, bishop e3, knight f6, bishop c4, black castles kingside, bishop b3, and knight g4. Black is giving up his kingside knight in return for winning white's central knight, and also is opening up the dark squared bishop's diagonal. This is a move which can be seen very often in accelerated dragon. By the way, instead of playing knight g4, never make moves like knight a5, and I guess you know why is knight a5 bad. Later I will make a video covering that line, but meanwhile in our game we have knight g4, so queen takes g4 was played, knight takes d4, and queen h4, white is moving away his queen from this dangerous diagonal, and queen h4 is on the board. Queen a5, white castles kingside, and bishop f6. I have to tell you that before this game, this position had been seen 9 times, and all those games ended up in a draw. White usually proceeded either with queen h6 or with queen g4. For example, the players even repeated the moves in here, or after queen h6, bishop g7, queen g5 had also been seen, and after the exchange of queens, the games quickly ended up in a draw, or in Fischer-Reshevsky game after bishop f6, queen g4 was played by Fischer, and then after d6, Fischer moved back his queen on d1. Again, that game ended up in a draw. But in our game, after bishop f6, Nezhmetdinov made one of the greatest queen sacrifices in history, and instead of moving away his queen, he captured on f6. Look at this brutal queen sacrifice, guys. With this move, white is sacrificing his queen, in return getting only 2 minor pieces. In here, a small reference from Nezhmetdinov's book, Nezhmetdinov's Best Games of Chess. Here is how Nezhmetdinov's friend Voloshin describes that epic moment. 20, 30, 40 minutes went by and white was still thinking. Chernikov was strolling around impatiently, waiting for white to offer a draw. "Do you know what Rashid Gibiatovich is thinking about for so long?" he asked as he turned to me. "It is a dead draw. If he wanted to go on playing, he should have thought earlier." I did not have time to answer. At that moment, an excited boy ran up to Chernikov. "Mister, he sacrificed his queen to you." I did not see Chernikov stroll around anymore after that. Like Nezhmetdinov, he did not leave the board for a single instant until the end of the game. Indeed, there was something to think about. Meanwhile, let's proceed with our game. Instead of accepting the queen sacrifice straight away, Chernikov first announced a check from e2. By the way, I forgot to say that moving away the queen, for example, on g3 or on f4, are not good because of this queen takes c3 move, and then black is forking the royal family, thus getting a preferable position. And then black can either play d6 or bishop takes c3. White has a weakened pawn structure, and that gives black advantage. But in our game after bishop f6, we have queen sacrifice, which even Bobby Fischer didn't dare to make. Imagine, this could have become another game of the century if Fischer would dare to make this move and win. But now let's proceed with our game. Here we have knight e2 check. Black is first luring away white knight, which could jump on d5, and also is not allowing the dark squared bishop to occupy the central d4 square, and thus black is gaining a tempo. Of course, this is a move which in his calculations Nezhmetdinov took into consideration. But of course, the queen sacrifice leads to such complex positions that it's impossible to calculate all of them. Here we have knight c3, the white knight is hurrying towards the d5 square and rook e8. After the game, many analyses were made on this game, and it was suggested that d5 is better, with the idea of switching the light squared bishop into the game as soon as possible. But even in this case, still it's not so clear. Yes, the players have equal chances, but it's not like that black can gain advantage. All in all, the players have equal chances. White can even force a draw by giving a perpetual check, or can even proceed with playing by following this move ordered. But in our game, after knight c3, we have rook e8. So black is bringing his rook on the 6th rank to strengthen the pawn on f6. Meanwhile, we have knight d5, rook e6, bishop d4, king g7. Black managed to successfully strengthen the pawn on f6, and rook d1. White wants to switch into the attack his queenside rook from the 3rd rank. So with only 2 minor pieces, white will now try to prevail over black queen, relying on the weakness of the dark squares d6, rook d3, bishop d7, rook f3, bishop b5, and bishop c3. Of course, white could even neutralize this light squared bishop straight away and only then play bishop c3. According to Stockfish, this is even stronger, but in our game we have bishop c3. Here black moved back his queen on d8. All black can do is to defend, and finally we have knight takes f6. Bishop e6 was played by Chernikov, but let's take a look what if, for example, bishop takes f1. Then in this case, white can announce a check from g4, and now if f6, then simply bishop takes e6, and if king f8, then anyways, yes, bishop takes e6 is coming and white is winning. But according to Stockfish, in here the toughest defense starts with rook c8, with the idea of giving up the exchange, thus getting rid of this powerful attacking piece. After rook c8, the following variation can arise. White can win black rook on e6, and then rook d1, and then finally black is giving up his rook, thus getting rid of that devastating bishop. Queen a3 with a mating threat, rook d1, bishop e2, rook d7 check, king f8. This is a very complex line where in the end of the day white can actually force a draw. Yeah, this is how it goes. White can give a perpetual check. Of course, you can't play king h8 because of this checkmate. But in our game, black failed to find that line starting with rook c8, and we have bishop e2. Black is coming after white's queenside rook, and meanwhile we have another tactical shot, knight takes h7, with the idea of if king takes h7, then rook takes f7 check, followed by bishop takes e6, and black king is in trouble. If bishop takes f1, then bishop g7 check will follow, and then g4, and then king takes f1. The threat is bishop f6 check, and then rook h7 can follow. If queen g8, then rook e7, and this is going to be winning. White has an extra piece. But in our game, after knight takes h7, we have king g8, rook h3, rook e5. So with this move, black is blocking the long diagonal, but now f4 is on the board, attacking black rook. Bishop takes f1. This is already losing. Well, it was better to play rook h5. In this case, still black is maintaining chances of keeping the balance. But in our game, after f4, bishop takes f1 was played, and king takes f1, rook c8, bishop d4, b5, and knight g5. White is attacking the pawn on f7, rook c7. Looks like that black successfully protected that square, but anyways, Nezhmetdinov landed a heavy punch and he munched the pawn. By the way, according to Stockfish, bishop takes e5 is stronger, and only then bishop takes f7. In this case, white can win faster and easier, but in our game we have bishop takes f7 straight away, which is also winning, although in the end this requires some technique. Knight takes f7, so we have, after rook takes f7, we have another beautiful sacrifice. Rook h8 check, which is allowing white to fork the royal family. After king h7, Nezhmetdinov munched the queen. Finally, black queen drops, rook takes e4, knight c6, and after rook takes f4, king e2, Chernikov finally resigned. There is not much black can do. Although still Chernikov could have prolonged his resistance trying his luck, but white can quickly consolidate his position and realize the advantage. This game produced such an impression on the many participants of the championship team that none of them presented their games to the judges for the beauty prize. It was guaranteed in advance to Nezhmetdinov. That's it, dear chess lovers. Finally, I covered this game and published on my channel, which I hope that you enjoyed greatly. In the end, a chess puzzle for you, where the task is to find the mating line for black. It's black to move, and I will wait for your answer in the comment section. Thanks for watching. Here are more suggestions for you. Feel free to check them out as well. I will see you in my next video. Take care.